In the game, player character weapons were shared between the actual player character, here referred to as Feather, and AI-controlled companions called Echoes and doppelganger enemies called Shadows. There are 3 weapon archetypes: light, medium, and heavy. For this video, we'll just be looking at light archetype. Each attack has its own animation, represented here by the suffix D if it's comboed with a dodge, J if comboed with a jump, S if triggered mid-sprint, and L number if it's part of a sequence of light attacks. Now, each of these attack sounds is the combination of its parts. It's a transient-rich bass sound, there, and a whoosh to elongate the attack's decay for greater feeling of power. Now, come on, give me the... There we go. And where's the whoosh? Beautiful. Now, side note, the whoosh sounds a bit intense in the vacuum of Wise, but it's carefully crafted for the early reflections and reverb of the room and portal's acoustic simulation treatment, which I'll cover in depth in a later video. Now, the attack sound represents only the physical blade in their base form, but as the weapon becomes imbued with an element and levels up, new audio components are introduced. We control this with switches, so we've got Feather, of course, and we're at our bass sound. So here's our light attack 4 with Feather with a bass light archetype. Now let's go with, what's it cool? I like Rot. We go Rot Common. I believe you hit level 5 and it's imbued with Rot. Sounds like this. Little Gooshy. All right. We keep leveling that up. We'll get to Rare. And then, of course, nastiest of all, we get to Epic. Can really taste it. Let's check out all the light attacks just because I like them. I love this weapon in particular because the Rot weapon is essentially like this corrosive acid liquid that your blades become. So it's a pretty cool effect, the way that they are still stabbing, but are made out of liquid. Now, let's apply that same concept to Brimstone, where they are not fire blades, but essentially a volcanic or hellish rock blades. So we still want the feeling of fire without them just constantly burning. L1, Brimstone Common, Feather. So you can hear a little bit of the cinders, of the embers, of that minor burning, and you can hear a little bit of a flint rub at the beginning there. It gets, of course, increased as we get to Rare, and then pretty intense for Epic. Where we also add this distorted flame. I'm blanking on what you call it. An ignition. So L1, L2, L3, and L4. Forgive me laughing. I love this one. This was absolutely my weapon. So that's all cool. That's the weapons leveling up and having different elements introduced through switch groups. Within that, we had a separate switch group for whichever player we're in. So let's say, Shadow's pretty cool. So Shadow is evil. It's this like purple, black, smoky version of yourself. It's a doppelganger. And they would just come at you relentlessly. So we really wanted to have that feeling of terror, of this thing's trying to kill you, and it's you, and they've got the same weapons as you. Check it out. Beautiful. This is all achieved through... Oh, right. It's a whole thing. I got to go to the Shadow for the effects. With a pitch shifter, its own reverb, regardless of the room that we're in, and a distortion plugin through Wise. Echo was a kind of similar approach, but instead some specific EQ, a very specific flanger, and a pretty obvious delay. After all, they're an echo. Let's check that out. Let's check that out at bass first. And again, this is your companion. That's why a big part of the role of the EQ is making it thin and making it unobtrusive. So you're still aware of what you're doing, but if you're carefully listening for what your AI controlled companion is doing, you'll know. L2, L3, and 4. Beautiful, very ethereal, very weird, and with a relatively simple and not at all CPU intensive approach, which is one of the major concerns with this game, is making sure that things run smoothly and are, have a small footprint. Let's keep it at echo. Let's check out. Let's compare more Brimstone. I love it. All right, L1 echo Brimstone. So as you can see through, well, let me actually bring it to feather. Yeah, let's do D, that's fine. Feather, here are all the sounds that are included in the light archetype dodge attack for feather. Here are all the sounds that are included. And within that, through switch groups, we just assign which sounds will be called for any given combination of element and level. Those are all selected here in switch groups, but of course in Unreal, we just have those parameters called, and it when you equip the weapon.